Imagine this. The sun is warm, the streets are alive with chatter, horses are clattering against cobblestones, and a royal motorcade is rolling past crowds of waving people. To the thousands watching in Sarajevo that day, it felt like a celebration. No one could imagine that within just a few hours, the world would unravel into something darker than anyone had ever seen before. Because that morning, a single bullet was fired. And that bullet, it didn't just kill a man. It ripped apart empires, unleashed the deadliest war humanity had ever known, and set into motion a chain of events that still shapes our lives today. The man behind the gun wasn't a general, not a king, not even a soldier. He was a 19-year-old student named Gavrilo Princip, pale, sickly and poor, someone history might have completely ignored. But he carried with him a powerful idea. The idea that his people, the South Slavs, were being crushed under the weight of a dying empire. Austria-Hungary. He believed that killing one man could strike a blow for freedom. That one man was Archduke Franz Ferdinand, the heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne. And so, when the Archduke's car made an unplanned turn onto a quiet street, Princip stepped forward. 2 shots, one into Ferdinand's neck, the other into his wife Sophie's stomach. By the time their car reached the governor's mansion, both were dying, and with them, so was peace in Europe. It's easy to think of history as inevitable, right? That the world was just destined for war. But the truth is so much stranger. The Archduke had actually opposed many of the war-hungry generals back in Vienna. He even had plans to give more autonomy to the Slavic peoples within the empire. In a twisted, tragic irony, the assassin's bullet destroyed the very chance of the freedom he was fighting for. But what turned this tragic assassination into a global catastrophe wasn't just the bullet itself. It was the world around it, a world built like a tower of dry wood, just waiting for a spark. Europe in 1914 was a continent on edge. Empires were bloated and crumbling, yet desperately clinging to pride. A tangled web of alliances tied nations together in promises of mutual defense. If one fell, others would be dragged in with them. Militaries had been growing at an unprecedented rate. New technologies like trains and telegraphs made war faster, deadlier, and more industrial than ever before. And beneath it all were ordinary people, farmers, students, factory workers who had no idea their lives were about to be swept away. When news of the assassination spread, Austria-Hungary blamed Serbia. Backed by Germany, they issued a series of demands that Serbia could never realistically accept. Russia, seeing itself as the protector of the Slavic peoples, began to mobilize its army in response. France and Britain then prepared to support Russia, and within a matter of weeks, this web of promises pulled almost every major power in Europe into the fight. A teenager's bullet had set the dominoes falling, one by one. But here's the most haunting part. It didn't have to happen. Leaders could have chosen restraint. They could have treated the assassination as a crime, not a cause for war. But pride, fear, and paranoia drove them forward. One assassination became an ultimatum. One ultimatum became an invasion, and soon, the entire world was bleeding. By the end of the war, 4 empires had collapsed. 17 million people were dead. An entire generation was scarred. And it all started with a moment most bystanders in Sarajevo that day barely even understood. Perhaps the real lesson isn't that one bullet caused a world war. It's that the world was already fragile enough to shatter from something so small. History is filled with these small moments: an overlooked decision, a chance encounter, a nervous hand pulling a trigger that spiral into consequences far beyond anyone's imagination. We like to believe that humanity's fate is shaped by powerful leaders and deliberate plans. Yet sometimes, it comes down to something as small as a teenager standing on a street corner, holding a pistol. So the next time you hear that history repeats itself, maybe we should remember this. The biggest catastrophes often start with the tiniest sparks. A bullet, a mistake, a single choice, and the world is never the same again. Thanks so much for watching. If you found this story as fascinating as I do, please hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the moments that changed everything. See you in the next one.